Day 18, the World Cup, first rest day of World Cup 2022. 17 days of successive footballs, which means we can actually take a breath with me, Joe Townsend, Jake Osgathorpe to my left, Tom Carnduff to his left, and we can look at the quarterfinals with a clean, fresh pair of eyes. But how are we dealing with this? No football for the first time in 18 days, chaps. Enjoying it or itching to look through the channels and find something to do?
I've barely just got over the fact that we haven't had a 10 a.m. game. So the fact that now we're playing without anything is different. It does give some time just to actually look at the tournament as a whole, though, because it's been so frantic, hasn't it? And actually assess where we're at, where we could be as well. I did have a look at the Premier League table as well yesterday. Did you know that? Do you remember who plays anywhere? Arsenal are 5 points clear. Does anyone remember that?
No.
Wolves are bottom.
Let's not get carried away.
So give us some time for reflection.
Premier League table, Tom.
Just to see where we're at everywhere, but strange, isn't it? It's
fill the gap, yeah. Yeah, it's been good. I mean, having that many successive days of what's been pretty good football and quite a lot of drama has been fantastic, really. I think more than what we could have wished for, to be honest. In two minds, the rest day is nice. It gives us a chance to sort of, have a rest from producing endless amount of content and looking at the matches, but also, you get used to that football every day, sitting in front of the telly while you're doing a bit of work at 3 o'clock. But yeah, like these quarter-final ties, we've only got 2 days of quarter-finals, but they should be fantastic days.
Now, I know that chronologically it's Croatia, Brazil, Netherlands, Argentina, Morocco, Portugal, England, France, but we're recording this the morning after the night before, and I feel like we've got to start with the Portugal game, because going back to our first preview video of this World Cup, and I can remember Jake saying almost verbatim, I really like Portugal and I'd be keen to get them on side, but they basically play with 10 players when they're playing with Ronaldo, and I can't be backing Portugal when they've got Ronaldo in the team. Jake.
Yeah. I mean, it's one game, so we can't get too carried away. It's the smallest of sample sizes, but
they won 6-1.
They won 6-1. They looked fluid in attack. They looked more cohesive. They looked like a bit of pressure was relieved from them. Didn't have the weight of the Ronaldo world on their shoulders. They weren't having to play and cater to his needs. They just look like a better team. They look like a team. If they carry on playing like that, playing that same system, that formation, that team, you'd have to say that they've got a good chance of going all the way, because the quality is there. And for those who don't know much about Gonçalo Ramos, he was Benfica's replacement for Darwin Núñez, who obviously moved to Liverpool. He's scored 9 goals in 11 Portuguese league games this season. He's averaging 1.05 expected goals per 95 minutes in that league. So he's very good at getting on the end of good scoring chances. And you saw not only his finishing, but his all-round play yesterday. He is a really, really top prospect. And then you factor in all the other quality players they've got. Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Leao off the bench, João Felix. Like the talent pool is huge at Portugal, and it did just take a little bit of, I guess we could say cojones from the manager to drop Ronaldo, who's apparently his friend.
He's hating it.
Ronaldo's hating it. Of course he is. He's probably cheering Portugal back right now. But yeah, it took a lot of guts from the manager to actually sit him down for the better of the team, and hopefully, he continues to do that, because without Ronaldo, they look like a serious prospect.
Now, explain this one to me, Tom. Portugal are the outsiders to lift the trophy on that side of the draw, when England are playing France in the other quarter-final on that side, and they're the outstanding favourites to beat Morocco. That to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense for Portugal to be as big as 13-2 to lift the trophy.
Yeah, I think you've got to kind of think about the fact that they were outsiders at the start of the tournament. One good result. We spoke about, didn't we, the first group games, not getting too carried away with kind of shock results like Saudi Arabia, Argentina and that. I'd also kind of look at that as well. It was a brilliant win. Switzerland were pretty poor, but Portugal made the most of it as well. There's also the fact they could bring Ronaldo back in, which would be a terrible decision. It would hit the team there. I mean, if you want to go straight into bets, I was going to flag up the fact that Portugal just to reach the final in 9-4, which is huge if you don't fancy them to win, because obviously Brazil and Argentina, hopefully a semi-final there, which would be a really entertaining one. One of those is going to be in the final. I think for me, Brazil especially, look the outstanding teams of the tournament. Portugal are 2 games away from that 9-4. They're 3-10 to beat Morocco. They're 3-10 to qualify in that game. Obviously then if it's England or France, I think England are about 11-10 to qualify in that one. Portugal potentially priced up similar, maybe push it out a little bit, 13-10, something like that. I don't know how it come up, maybe even 6-4. So you get 9-4 on Portugal to reach the final. They've played France 3 times in the last 2 years, drawn 2, lost 1. Okay, they haven't beaten them, but they've only lost one of them as well, so there could be a potential to go all the way there. No recent history with England. So Portugal, you mentioned about their World Cup price. I just think to reach the final, they're 2 games away, and they've got the most favourable tie. As brilliant as it is, Morocco have upset the odds and they're here. This is the most favourable tie of the entire quarter-finals. They get through that, and they're expected to do so, 3-10 there. It's 1 game to make the final. I think that's a big price at the moment.
I think that's a good shout, and what I would say on the top of that is that if you think that this Portugal team without Ronaldo are the business and that they can do very well at this tournament now, then backing them now is the way to go. Because if you think that they're that good, then they'll wipe the floor with Morocco, win 2-3 quite comfortably, and that price will shorten even further for the next round, just purely because the hype train will get moving, everyone will be talking about Portugal, and they might even go off as, I don't know if they go off as favourites against England or France, but they definitely would be shorter if they beat Morocco quite handily. So if you want that bet, that price, do it now.
Word of warning just on Portugal is the fact that Ronaldo, it's not just the fact that if he plays in the team, all the talk about Portugal is on Cristiano Ronaldo. What Cristiano Ronaldo's doing, where's he going next? The national anthem, all the photographers are on the bench. Let's take a picture of him standing on the bench. The crowd, they were 5-1 up. 5-1 at this point, and Ronaldo. I don't know why, they were a much better team, but whether it was Switzerland fans chanting for him because they wanted their way back into the game, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that Ronaldo got a bigger applause than Ramos.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? But this is the only thing. My only little potential issue with Portugal is that there is always potential for more to come out of this. There was the pictures of the team celebrating, and Ronaldo was straight off down the tunnel. Yeah. There's always potential for more to come from this story, and it get worse. He could get sent home, who knows, stuff like this that I don't think we've heard the last of it just because he got dropped for 1 game. Whether he gets picked again or he doesn't get picked, that's just one instant point there against Morocco. So that's the only thing that's obviously surrounding this Portugal camp, but purely on the pitch when it comes to that, if they play like that again, they've got every chance of going all the way now.
So what do we think about Morocco then? I mean, knocking Spain out. I know they didn't win in 90 minutes, winning on penalties, but they were 8-1 to win that game in 90 minutes. They've come in far shorter against Portugal. 5-1 is the price in 90 minutes to win. What do we think post that game, and what we learned from the Spain matchup and Morocco so far in the tournament, and Portugal, but a bit more of a focus on Morocco?
Yeah, I mean, we know what we're going to get with Morocco. They're going to be deep lying defence, play on the counter-attack, try and be very difficult to beat. They've done a really good job of that throughout this tournament. Conceded very few high-quality chances. I think they've only conceded 3 non-penalty big chances in 4 matches. Against Spain, held them to very little over 90 minutes. I think it was 0.7 XG. So, yeah, they're going to play a deep line block. They're going to try and frustrate Portugal. And I think, again, this is why, I know we said talk about Morocco, but this is why I fancy Portugal to beat this Morocco team if they play without Ronaldo, because without Ronaldo, all of a sudden you see the link-up plays slicker, it's faster, and that's what you need to break down a deep line block. We saw Spain, and they basically showed you how not to play against Morocco. It was so slow, it was round the back too often, it was round the midfield, they didn't get in behind, potentially like Dallo and Cancelo could do, or Guerrero, to pull balls back and cause problems. So, and then you add in the extra time, the extra weight on the legs of the Moroccan players, the fact that they generally this deep line block, it means that they are running a lot more than their opponents, whether it's side to side or forward and back to try and press, and that could be seen as a negative for them. So I personally don't really give them much of a chance. The Infogol model has Portugal as a 76% chance favourites to qualify, and that actually means that Portugal are the team out of all of the quarter-finalists that are most likely, according to the model, to make it to the semi-finals, even more than Brazil.
One of my favourite stats of the tournament, if you want it, from Morocco-Spain, in 128 minutes or something like that, did we play 130 probably with all the added time. Accurate passes from 17 Morocco players, their starting 11, and 6 subs was 216. Rodri had 207. So basically 1 Spain player is absolutely matched, which just highlights the way that game was going. And for Morocco, the tournament's a success, isn't it? Whatever happens. I know pre-tournament we could talk about players, Hakimi, Ziyech and stuff like that. Nothing at all in circumstance said they should have been here. It was a nation and a team that had issues with previous management. Someone else has come in, and defensively they're absolutely superb, isn't it? They passed the Spain test not only in 90 minutes, but they kept them out 120 minutes. They kept them out on penalties as well, which is remarkable. It just keeps going on. So they've got that in their favour, but maybe this is just a step too far for them. But for Morocco, it's an absolute triumph, this tournament, and they've got a scalp to come from it as well. So it's been a huge positive, and as it stands, probably the story of the tournament, just because of the circumstance for that team going into it.
Now, please don't fast forward. We are going to save the England-France preview until the end of the podcast. Get back to some kind of chronology. So we're going to go back to the opening game of the quarter-finals, which is Croatia against Brazil, the tournament favourites against what looks like a potentially tricky opponent. We think that they're going to try and make it hard.
Oh yeah. The only way Croatia are going to get through this tie, or they're about, I think, 5-1 to qualify, 9-2. The only way they're going to do that is by playing tough to beat and taking the game to extra time penalties. I don't see them winning in 90 minutes, even though the price is huge. You get nearly 9-1 for them to win in 90 minutes. They're just going to try and frustrate Brazil. We saw, I think the best team that's done it so far at this tournament was Switzerland. Play that kind of really clever, smart, deep line block that frustrated Brazil for a while. It took a hell of a finish from Casemiro to open the deadlock there. I expect it to be similar. I think it'll be very low scoring. It'll be very cagey. And this Croatia team, I mean, I do think that they're being kind of underestimated and disrespected in the market. I do think they should be a little bit shorter. I think it's 20 games now. They've lost just one of the last 20 games since the Euros. And if you go back through their knockout history, they've only, I think it's one of the last 8 knockout games in Euros or World Cups has actually been settled in 90 minutes. So they've actually dragged good teams all the way. You think back to the last Euros, it was Spain. They got beat on penalties, but they took on it in extra time. At the World Cup, they did it 3 times on penalties. So yeah, they're a team that are really dogged, really determined. They'll be tough to beat. From an expected goal standpoint, defensively they've been okay, apart from that Belgium game, which was ridiculously one-sided. And yeah, I think that they've got enough midfield quality, I think, to be able to hold the ball at times. I think that's a problem that you think Switzerland and Serbia in particular had. They didn't keep hold of the ball long enough against Brazil, which meant that eventually they tired. Whereas with Croatia, I think they've got a bit more quality to be able to hold on to the ball. I like them to cover a handicap. You can get +1.25, which is effectively half your stake on +1 and half your stake on +1.5. So yeah, I think that price, you're getting around 11 to 10. It's drifted slightly. So if Croatia lose by exactly 1, you get a full winner. If they avoid defeat, you get a full winner. So
now the Portugal win over Switzerland is probably unexpected. How big it was. Brazil's win over South Korea put down as being a statement victory. Can Croatia really deal with the dynamism that Brazil showed in that match and the legs that they have both in midfield and attack, when we think of them being more of an ageing side with quality but probably less athletic?
Yeah, they're smarter though, aren't they, Croatia? Far smarter than South Korea. I mean, to their credit, South Korea, we have to give them a lot of credit from a neutral perspective that they we're going to go toe-to-toe with Brazil. Really funny because they couldn't do it and they got torn apart.
Credit for us to see a good game, but no credit
in a way to South Korea. Well done them. And at no point in the first half they go, we should probably change this. They're just going, the tide will turn at some point. And it didn't. So Croatia are going to be a smarter team. They're not going to allow that to happen. Surely they've seen what's happened, and the Brazil front line. It's just ridiculous the fact that they can bring anyone off the bench. And obviously, I suppose for Brazil that they've got a forward line who have had very similar stories last season. Vinicius Junior, of course, won the Champions League with Real Madrid. Richarlison and Rafinha narrowly avoided relegation from the Premier League. So obviously they've got very similar stories. For me, Brazil, I think they just look a class above, don't they? I think the general consensus here is it's not going to be as comfortable as it was against South Korea. You have to agree with that. My kind of play in this one is to look at Rafinha. Mentioned him there. Anytime goal scorer odds of 3-1. I don't like using this, but his performance against South Korea, he's just so due a goal in this tournament. His performances have been, particularly in that round of 16 game, what we saw from him last season, that he was playing just I'm not saying he's better than Brazil, but his performances in the Premier League for Leeds were that he was in a team and he was the standout player in that team because he was clearly a level above anyone else and most of the time clearly a level above the opposition. That was kind of the performances there. 5 shots there, took him to 8 for the tournament. 6 have been on target, so his real high kind of rate of having on target to his shots. He's 3-1 just to score any time in this game, and I looked at outside the box because he is that kind of eye-catching player, but all of his efforts against South Korea came from inside the area. So for me, I think if you want one, that just looks a little bit generous. I know there's not the penalties and stuff like that there, but real eye-catching performance, really hit form. I hope they score loads, and I hope it's on ITV just so we can see more dancing and furious reaction to that one. But I'll back Rafinha.
We should do a Sporting Life dance
to be a part of that at decent odds.
Cool. So let's move on to the second game on Friday, 7 p.m. Netherlands against Argentina. The market do not like the Netherlands. 17-1 best price what you can get for them to win the tournament overall. I would say that established footballing nations, I mean Croatia, they got to the final last time, but I wouldn't put them in the same bracket as Brazil, France, Argentina, England, Portugal and the Netherlands. And as we spoke about on the last podcast, the Netherlands went off at almost even money to beat the USA in the last round. Why doesn't the market like the Netherlands?
I think it's probably narrative driven. I think you've got a lot of punters that want to see an Argentina-Brazil semi-final. They want to see Messi continue his journey. Similar reason to what we were talking about in the previous shows about the fact that England generally go off shorter than they should because there's that patriotic backing. I think we're getting a bit of that with Argentina. I think the price on them to win this game's a bit short, particularly in 90 minutes. Obviously, I'm on them for the whole tournament, so kind of hoping that they actually keep going to continue that run. But yeah, I don't see a lot between these two teams. I think defensively both are strong, and I can see it being a bit of a defensive struggle. The Netherlands they've done really well at this tournament, picking their moments to attack, whereas Argentina, it's been a little bit reactionary because either they've needed to win games after the Saudi Arabia defeat, or a little bit of moment of magic. Think about against Mexico and Australia from Messi that's actually opened the door. I can see it needing something similar in this game. I don't see a lot between them. Argentina's defence is one thing that I want to touch on because they're allowing just 0.33 expected goals against per game, which is ridiculously low. You have to caveat that with the fact that they played, arguably rubbish teams, Australia, Saudi Arabia, Mexico and Poland. So this is definitely the toughest attack that they'll come up against. But if they continue to concede few chances, then the probability of them going far is going to be really high. I thought the draw in 90 minutes was worth a small bet, around 11-5, 12-5, something like that. That for me, I just don't see a lot between the teams. And rather than taking a chance on either in extra time, I thought if I think it's going to go the distance, just back the draw in the 90 minutes. I think under 2.5 goals is also quite an interesting price, odds against. So if you wanted something a little bit shorter, that would be my play. I could see it being a 1-1 kind of game.
Yeah, for me, I think you mentioned their outright price there, though. The issue with the Netherlands is their tournament's kind of been flipped. They had probably the easiest or best group on paper of any of the big nations. Now they're run to the final. If you want to take them to win it, they're going to have to get past Argentina, probably Brazil, probably France. That's going to be a run to.
He's writing off England already.
That is
not got there yet.
Well, that's it. England, another nation that is an incredibly tough run for anyone who wants to go forward. And to be honest, even during that group stage, wasn't overly impressed with the Netherlands. And for all their credit, the speed and the creation of those attacks against the USA to get the goals, full credit, they were really well constructed. General play, they weren't great. I'm leaning towards Argentina in 90 minutes. But then I looked at the goal scorer prices again. Lionel Messi 7-4. I don't know if I've missed something here, if he's out or something like that. I can give you all the stats you want, but when anytime Messi, their main threat, is 7-4, we talk about moments of magic, but just open play as well. He's got 3 goals at the tournament. He's had 19 shots. He's the penalty taker.
Don't mention penalties. Well. He can't score penalties.
I know. This is what I was going to say. I was literally about to say on penalties, but he's still a penalty taker. The statistics will always favour the taker, no matter how bad they are. FAO, is that? Yes, Japan and Spain. Japan's, terrible penalties.
Spain weren't much better.
No, but at least there were some half decent saves there. But yeah, Messi anytime at 7-4 in this one, I couldn't believe that. I think Betfair Paddy Power are offering this. Anytime that's there, you've got to take some interest. And if you want a statistics one, I will chuck in Argentina player passes. Rodrigo de Paul, prime candidate. I think he was poor in the group stages, to be honest. His usual levels weren't quite there. Really looked great in the round of 16 contest. And Enzo Fernandez, since he's come into centre mid. 80 plus lines. If the price is decent, obviously not out yet, I'd be investigating that. The Netherlands 42% possession against the USA. Argentina on the flip side in the group stage were averaging just shy of 700 passes a game. The USA had 473. I can't see why the Netherlands would maybe change too much from that strategy there. Happy to let Argentina have the majority of the ball. So I think if you want to kind of delve into the stats ones, those free bets that are going out and things like that you're kind of seeing at this stage of the tournament, and you want to get involved in the builder bets, things like that. De Paul, Fernandez, either Argentina centre back. It depends on the line. But they're the two plays for me, Messi at that generous price, and also the statistics on those pass lines.
Good stuff. And just to round that game off, I think Jake mentioned about unders being odds against. I think unless he's found a palp, then I think it was just a slip of the tongue. So the Netherlands-Argentina game, then it's the shortest price of any of the quarter-final fixtures for unders, 5-8 generally, and 21-10, as he said, for that game to be a draw. So the market is anticipating it to be the tightest in terms of goals scored in 90 minutes, but the tightest contest, according to the market, is England against France.
Yeah, I think according to the market and according to everyone across world football, I think we were having a good chat upstairs, weren't we, in Sporting Life HQ about what we expect to happen,
a lot of disagreements.
How England should approach things. But, I mean, let's start off by, I think that these two teams are very evenly matched. I don't think there's a lot between them at all. So, I've just done a quarter-final to qualify outright. Tips up England because I think the price is a little bit too big. You're getting 5-4 for England to qualify. France, I think the best price is 3-4. So there's a little bit of a gap there, and the Infocom model in particular thinks that this should be 11-10, 10-11. I think the price on England to qualify is a little big. Other than Mbappe, they don't really scare me, France. I know that there's a lot of question marks around England's defence, and the Maguire is obviously always the scapegoat, but they've been really good in major tournaments from a defensive standpoint for a long period of time of England. You've now got Rice in there, who's probably playing the best football of his career. Henderson for a bit of extra security, and obviously Bellingham, who's been pretty sensational. So I think England have the edge in midfield, forward areas. We've got an array of talent. So do they. I actually think it could be quite a high-scoring game. I've got both teams to score down as a real live runner. It's about 4-5, which may seem a little bit short, but I just think this game could be one that explodes. We were chatting. You guys think that England might set up a little bit more defensive. I personally I tend to agree that that's what will happen. I don't think that's the way we should play it. I really think that England should play on the front foot and take the game to France. I think their defence is very vulnerable, particularly down that left side, because Theo Hernandez, for all he's brilliant going forward, he does leave his defence quite exposed. So that may be an angle of attack. And we've seen with knockout rounds, one goal opens the game up massively. So both teams to score, I could see it easily landed.
I mean, everyone's been getting stats in there, so I can get one in. We were chatting earlier on about France in the knockout stage games, and 6 knockout stage games under Didier Deschamps, and in 90 minutes, 25 goals have been scored. So it is kind of that assumption that games are going to be cagey in the knockout stage, and even that France managed to squeeze their way through matches in the World Cup to win it 4 years ago, but they won the final 4-2, and they of course had that incredible game against Argentina that they won 4-3 as well on the way to the final. So over to you, Tom. I could see you itching to get in, so I'm hoping there was something you were seriously wanting to
It's just going to disagree with me, aren't you?
Really?
No?
No, I mean, to be fair, I'd like this game in the fact that it's so uncertain that you could probably just sit back and enjoy the game for what it is. My only concern for England is the fact I don't think they quite know how to play top teams yet. You look at their recent record against top teams, if you go from probably 2020 onwards, recent-wise, the only big nations I think they've beaten, Germany, Croatia and Belgium. Germany at the time of the round of 16 at the Euros are in an absolute crisis. I know the talks now, I think they've just hit a rough patch of form and were slightly unlucky this tournament. They were just waiting for the Hansi Flick era to begin at Euro 2020. They're happy to write that off. Croatia, fair enough, that was a Nations League game. They managed to get the better of them, and Belgium are rubbish, so I don't think that counts. But it is that approach. I don't think they're quite there yet. Maybe they'll use the experiences of the 2018 World Cup, of the 2020 Euros, and the fact they got to the Nations League final in the first edition as well, which again was a good learning experience for them, even in a penalty shootout when they picked 5 takers who wouldn't usually take them, wouldn't they? So my only concern with England is I think they're still uncertain how to do it. I probably lean towards France at 29 to 26 to 4 in 90 minutes. Tom. Just on that basis of, I don't know if England know how to approach top teams consistently just yet. But the other play, if you want a bigger price, if you want to gamble on how the game might play out, the other angle is to go France half-time, draw full-time, 14 to 1. England, of course, looked sloppy in that first half, didn't they, against Senegal? Of course, France had issues as well against Poland. But for me, it feels like if England are to get some success out of this, a similar pattern to that Denmark semi-final of the Euros game, where England instantly will try and keep it tight. Slight more defensive mindset to it, so obviously, as we've seen in the bigger ones there. But once they conceded against against Denmark in the semi-final, that's where they kind of grew in confidence, didn't they, in that game? That they had to basically come out of their shell somewhat and attack, and that's where England are best. And we've seen it in certain games, that whether it be a fluky goal, the Australia one wasn't against Argentina, and suddenly they're into life. Whether that's the case, I don't know. But I think for me, if you want a kind of bigger price one, take that France/draw in the half-time, full-time at 14 to 1, because it could well benefit England to concede first. As strange as it sounds, you could open the floodgates and France could go all out. But I think that will essentially force them to come out of their shell a little, play to the strengths of the attack, and then we could go to extra time. But it's just a little bit reluctant on England. Maybe this is the game where they finally learn from all those big games, and this is the whole learning experience has come to playing the world champions in a World Cup knockout game and they beat them.
That's more like it.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear.
This is the flip side though. Maybe this is what it builds to. Maybe these big games, the whole learning experience from these multiple big games they've been in lead to this point where they knock out the world champions.
I'm only pulling you like this is a World Cup Best Bets podcast. It's not, England fan zone. So it's
just
fine.
on that reluctance,
don't worry.
I'm just going to lean towards France.
I just think that this is the best England team we've seen under Gareth Southgate. I think that this is the best and the best equipped as well, not only for starting 11 but also from the bench to be able to cause these better teams problems. And I think we look at France and go, they've got some scary players like Mbappe, Griezmann's playing well, but they'll be looking at England and thinking, well, they've got Kane, they've got Rashford off the bench, they've got Foden, they've got Saka, they've got Bellingham, who's probably been one of the players of the tournament so far. They've got Rice, who's just everywhere. So I think that those teams will be equally as scared of us as we are of them. And I'm firmly of the mind that England should really play on the front foot against this France team, because I think that midfield can be overrun. They've been playing a front four with Giroud, Griezmann, Mbappe, Dembele, and yeah, they look frightening going forward, but just two in midfield of Tchouameni and Rabiot, and if England can take a foothold in there with Rice, Henderson and Bellingham, then you'd expect we could push them back and really play and pin them high up. And I think there's plenty of goals to be had. That back line of France doesn't fill me with any confidence. I think England could have a quietly good game and really, I guess, make a statement. Because if you beat France, you really do make a statement. And all of a sudden, your price for the outright crashes, not only because you're in the semi-finals, but because you've knocked out a legitimate opponent. And I guess, on Tom's point, it's something that England haven't done over the last 2 runs deep into major tournaments. They've not really beaten an elite team to get there. You think Denmark in the semi-finals at the Euros, Germany, as he said, weren't great. I think this is the opportunity. This is the time for England, and as I've said, the 5-4 in England to qualify, I thought was a little bit big.
Can I just chuck in? Sorry, just because you mentioned Rabiot there, I wanted to say 9-2 with Sky Bet to get carded. Others might come out and it might be a bit bigger. I don't know. I can see that happening in the first half, that he just can't quite deal with Bellingham if he's in centre mid. I think that's quite a big player one to focus on if you want one.
Now we're just about out of time. Last thing, this is going to be tricky because one word only. So I'm going to go through the 4 games. Who's going through? Croatia, Brazil.
Brazil.
Netherlands, Argentina.
Argentina.
Morocco, Portugal.
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 England, France.
England.
France.
One disagreement.
Yeah. So We'll be back on Monday to
Yep.
talk through the semi-finals, and hopefully, from an England perspective, we'll be looking at England in the semi-finals of the World Cup. So we'll be back with our latest best bets start of next week. Remember, you can get all of your World Cup insight at sportinglife.com.